So we're here today just to share with the community, the local community, a project that we did in August where we went out to the other side of the Great Basin and looked at two saline lakes who are facing various issues similar to the Great Salt Lake to see if we could find solutions that could be applied here.
Okay, what will be the goal for today?
To answer the community's questions, I know there's a lot of anxiety about the lake drying up and the health hazard it poses with blowing dust and the ecological hazards and threats. So I think the community has a lot of questions, and hopefully we can answer some of them or point them in the right direction.
During your research, was you able to figure out what's going on?
Well, saline lakes around the world are on decline, all for similar reasons, partly due to climate, but mostly due to human populations consuming water. And as populations both throughout the Great Basin are growing, there is more demand put on our water systems. And so that's why these lakes are disappearing.
So obviously we know that Great Salt Lake it's means so much for the Utah. What's your opinion about that one?
About what?
About Great Salt Lake.
Well, I'm not really supposed to have opinions about the Great Salt Lake, but I think I don't think you're being biased as a reporter to say we've got to protect this resource. It provides great economic value to the state of Utah. It has great cultural significance, and the costs of losing it are great to everybody across the state. So,
what type of people do you expect to come to kind of show up to these events? Like what's expected?
Yeah, so I think a lot of our events have been super Salt Lake City focused, which is fine because that's where most of the people in the state live. But there are communities that live all along the lake shores, so we're trying to go to different communities. Today we're in Weber County. We'll also go to Davis County, possibly Tooele at some point, just because this lake is so big, it affects so many communities with diverse interests, diverse issues. So we just want to find a way to connect to all of them.
What will be the next step?
So next, I think it's next week, we'll be in Davis County, and we're also going to speak at the Salt Lake County Water Symposium and just share some of our findings. And I think we're going to translate the project into Spanish to reach some of those communities. So,
what are some of the biggest concerns from community members? Is it the water supply? What exactly is it that you guys are hearing that people are most concerned about?
I think it just depends on the community you're talking to. Obviously, a lot of people are worried about the dust. I mean, that's no matter where you live, how much you care about the Great Salt Lake, even if you've never been to the lake, we already have bad air quality along the Wasatch Front, and this could just potentially make it much, much worse, and all year round. So I think that is probably the most common anxiety people are having.
During this program, did they have any challenges, Paul?
During the project? Well, I think the biggest challenge is we were just kind of parachuting in for a week. So how in depth can you get to know community and an issue in just a week? So that was one of the biggest challenges. Luckily, people were very generous with their time and speaking to us, and we just tried to get out into the little towns around these lakes and talk to people who are actually affected by them and just learn as much as we could. We asked everybody we met what advice would they offer to Utah and the Great Salt Lake, so we got some pretty interesting feedback that way.
I'm sure you was able to talk with your colleagues, here. What's their opinion? What's their thinking?
You'd probably have to ask them.
What is the opposition, I guess, saying to this? What's the opposing side saying to this debate? There's obviously two sides, and we hear about the dust and those concerns. What's the opposition saying?
Well, I think for a long time, the opposing side maybe would have said, the Great Salt Lake, it goes up, it goes down, that's what it does, this isn't a big deal. But I think more and more bipartisan, across the board, we're seeing people wake up to the fact this is an issue. This is the biggest issue that Speaker Brad Wilson and the Utah legislature has championed. So I think you're really starting to see everyone across the political divide open their eyes to this.
Are people saying this is directly related to climate change?
That's a good question. So we've actually done a lot of research on this, and it's not related to climate change as much as you might think. It's really related to human water consumption. The lake has lost about half of its volume and would be about 11 feet higher if not for the diversions we have on its tributary rivers to water our cities, to water our farmland, to feed industries. So it's actually much more tied to population. And as you know, the population in Utah is growing.
I think the California part, let me see what she wants to do. The California. Oh, okay. And also, I think she wants to know what you learned during, I guess, let me see, learn about lakes in California.
What did we learn about the lakes in California?
Yep.
Oh, so many things. I mean, there's so many things that they did that, you know, I don't know if they would actually work in Utah, but maybe they're worth a try. For example, at Mono Lake, the state decided to mandate an elevation that the lake must rise to. Maybe that's something we should try. At least if we had a target elevation that we knew we had to reach, it would like give us a tangible goal. So that's one takeaway. And I think for Owens Lake, my biggest takeaway was everyone kind of looks at that lake as a dead lake and like this disaster and this tragic story, but actually they've gotten the dust down. It's like largely under control. And not only that, but the ecosystem has somewhat bounced back. So I think there's a hopeful message in that, that if we do take action, we can fix the problem, but how much money do we want to spend?
Okay, and also she wants to know top 3 things that reporter learn about the lakes.
Oh, top 3 things. You'd have to ask all of them. Let me think. My top 3 would be, it's probably important for us to like pay more attention to the dust issue, start monitoring it. Where is it blowing? Who is it impacting? And maybe we need to start investing money now to keep that down before it becomes a big problem. Another one would be, we don't want to take Great Salt Lake into litigation like they had to at Mono Lake, because that litigation takes a long time and it's a gamble. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. It would be much better to be in control of the situation, not throw it to the courts who could do whatever. And a third one would be, I guess, don't lose hope, like don't have despair. We can fix the problem. It might be an engineered solution like at Owens Lake, or it might be we find creative ways to get water, but it can be fixed.